So my name is Rochelle Roach. I'm a pharmacist at Seasons Pharmacy and Culinaria, and this is my friend Kate Reed, who is a naturopath. And we're in the Love the North podcast booth here today, and we're really excited to be here on Love the North once again because we are focusing on health for people who live in Northern Ontario, because Northern Ontario is the most special of places. We were just talking about our beautiful suntans and how we've been throwing ourselves in various lakes and rivers in the region and comparing them all.
And absorbing massive amounts of vitamin D.
Vitamin D in the sunlight.
Yes,
photons.
vitamin D.
So did you hear about the new movie that's out? It's called The Pharmacy of Light, spelled pharmacy, Pharmacy. And it's all about how the sun is so powerful and it sends to Earth all of these little energy packets called photons, and the plants bring them up. And I always thought about the life force being the microbiome, that what's that life force of whole foods. But it turns out that there's some science around that, they are like packets of light, and the chlorophyll in the plants converts that into usable energy for us people and animals and all the other things. But Pharmacy of Light. Anyways, we picked some up. We were talking about
picked up light.
It's beautiful. It's summer here in Sudbury. It's been 31 to 34 degrees.
Amazing.
We
weather.
love.
Yes.
Anyways, today, Kate,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about you and naturopathy. And
yes. Well, here I am back for my second Love the North podcast. Thank you, Rochelle. And basically, I've been busy as a naturopathic doctor for 25 years here in Sudbury. And prior to that, I worked as a psychotherapist at the hospital. So I really combined my practice into a holistic mind, body, spirit approach, where we really address the needs of the entire person and how all of those aspects of our health interact together to create health.
I love that because, I work as a pharmacist and I do own this pharmacy. And the pharmacy part is very reactive. It's like reactive medicine. You have a crisis, you end up at the Emerge or the walk-in or at your doctor's office, and the medicine is there to help us. Okay, we're going to take some medication and it's going to help manage that illness or maybe cure it if it's an antibiotic, things like that. But I love the space of naturopathy because naturopathy, whatever, I'm going to say it both ways. Because that's playing in the preventive space. And the pharmacy I built on Lawrence Street with my friend Lori is all about playing in that preventive space, because we have a pharmacy and a culinaria, which is food, if food is medicine, how we can treat ourselves with eating better. Because we all hear that, right? You all hear that. Eat better, get more exercise. This is the formula for health. Yeah, try and do that in our world. It's a little tricky.
That's a very challenging thing these days. In fact, I think we mentioned this last time, the 9 longevity factors, the blue zones. So a bunch of scientists collaborated, went around the world, and basically went to all the places where people live to over 100. And they identified the 9 factors that led to longevity, the 9 things that all of these communities had in common. So what were they? They were not complicated, not rocket science health factors at all, right? Eating to 80% fullness, eating mainly a plant-based diet with some animals.
Good animals.
Good animals. Clean animals, ones that are hanging out in your backyard, eating your clean, non-pesticide sprayed grass.
Yeah, exactly.
And food out of your own garden that you've grown yourself. Being active every day, meaningfully active. So not necessarily slogging it away at the gym, but engaging in meaningful activities, walking down the mountain to see your friend, pulling food out of your garden, swimming in your swimming hole in your backyard, basking in the sun, whatever is a meaningful movement part of your day. A sense of belonging, a sense of community, faith, whatever the faith is, it didn't matter what the belief system was. It just that had a belief system, a belief in higher power, source, God, however you want to define that. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
What have I forgotten? Well, wine, right? But wine, it's not about the wine. It's about the antioxidants that the wine brings in. And here we go talking about food being vibrant and full of light. And here we come full circle back to the light and the vitality and the life force that light brings in, because we are essentially light. I mean, Einstein knew that. We're massive collections of photons. Even though this appears to be solid, we're actually we're beings of light.
We're beings of light.
That's established science now.
What's interesting? So I've had the fortunate opportunity to visit Europe a few times and visit a lot of churches, because if you go to Europe, you're going to visit castles and churches. It's part of the thing.
Right.
And I was noticing. Do you remember Do you remember those pictures of Jesus and Mary? And there's like the flaming heart of
Yes.
Christ, right? The
Yes.
flaming heart
Yes.
and the
Yes.
halo,
And the
right? These are
halo.
the things.
Right.
And I just came back from a trip to Poland to visit my son, and I took
Mm.
on purpose many photographs of the different images of that life force in the heart. One really spectacular memory is of the salt museum in Krakow. So this is a salt mine. Well, we're going to talk about all kinds of things here. Why is salt so important? They've been mining it for 800 years in Krakow. And the miners in those days, it was a privileged job actually to be a miner. It was very dangerous. It was well paid, but they had enough time in their workday to do art. And so there are 138 chapels or something like that below ground in these over 800 years of mining, miles and miles and hundreds and thousands of miles of like tunnels. One of the most beautiful areas is this ginormous cavern where they do weddings and things. But in the walls, they have these beautiful statues, and there are two of Mary and Jesus, and there are different sort of little places, but the heart is glowing. Anyways, this is what I'm thinking about, this life force. I've been thinking a lot. I don't know why I've been thinking a lot about this, but this life force. And what is the life force? How do you explain that? I used to think about, well, the microbiome is part of our life force because they have a little light in their little bodies, and that becomes part of our light force also. But it's interesting to see in art, the things that we need come from science, but they're also informed by art and culture and
100%.
religion and all of these other things, right?
And think about that, like how many thousands of years ago that they were depicting those energy fields before they could even measure a quantum field or a photon or a quark or anything like that. Now we've quantified it, we've measured it, we know that what those structures are, but they actually depicted it, so they knew.
Yeah, they knew from whatever insight they had, and there it is in all different kinds of art.
Yes.
And so now I love that about visiting and sort of paying attention, right? Like you're not really maybe paying attention in the moment, but after, when you get home and you're digesting, what did I learn on that trip? It was very interesting. So life force. So today, let's get into our topic. So I want the topic today to be about our liver.
Woo!
Where's our liver, Kate? It's on this
right
side.
Upper quadrant.
Here we go.
Right upper quadrant. Right.
Here's
under
our liver.
the rib cage right here.
Right there.
Here.
And why would we want to talk about the liver? What's the main job about the liver? Why is it important?
Well, there's there's more than one job that the liver performs. The main job, and this is the one that we typically think of, is that it's a filtration system or a detoxification system. Detoxification being the neutralization of toxins that come into the body through respiration, breathing, through our skin. We consume them, we inhale them. So all of the entry routes of any exposure will ultimately, well, sometimes not, because we were talking about first pass, and the pharmacist is going to talk to us about first pass today. But the liver basically takes the blood from the gut and filters it and neutralizes toxins that we've somehow. Now, the toxins can come from the outside, but they can also be generated inside of our body as well. For example, estrogen. I see a lot of women who have estrogen dominance, estrogen toxicity, which you wouldn't think that we would be poisoned by our own estrogen. But what's happening in our environment today is that many chemical compounds from our environment act like estrogen. They bind to estrogen receptors and stimulate our body and produce too much estrogen. What does that do? It grows things.
Yeah.
We don't want extra things growing.
No.
And it produces headaches, hormonal turbulence, mood change, all of that. So the liver, if it's working well, takes that estrogen or the estrogenic compounds from our environment that are acting like estrogen, and it conjugates it. So it does a chemical reaction on the compound, neutralizes it, and then passes it through to be eliminated. So that's just an example of one job that the liver does in metabolizing hormones.
And it metabolizes everything. It metabolizes the good stuff too.
It does.
Because it takes the good stuff in, and it's like, okay, I'm like the triage unit. Do I need this right away? Yes. I'm going to use it right away. I don't need it right now. Let's package it up. Can I package it up the way it looks, or do I have to do something to it, right? This is this part of this, how this functions. So I got to package it a certain way and store it somewhere safely, and when I need it, I can pull it out again. So the liver, it puts things away and it takes things out. It's like a super smart. It's really, like a super smart triage unit. It's like it's got its own little brain. It's doing its own. It's doing its own little thing. So yeah, that's one role of the liver. What else is the liver?
It's involved in blood sugar metabolism, right?
Right.
Glycogen and glucose. So the liver stores glycogen, which is a storage form of energy, and then when our body needs it, it spits it out to give us energy.
So that's interesting. So glucose. So we all think, oh, sugar, bad, diabetes. But listen, glucose is the energy of
It's
life.
the fuel of the body.
It's the fuel of the body. It can be used by the brain with no trickery. It doesn't need anything. It just goes straight into the brain. Poof, we need it in the brain. It's going to just pass.
It actually goes there first.
Goes there first because your
Yeah.
brain is the most important part.
Without
Maybe
this,
after,
everything else shuts down.
after this, maybe.
Well,
is
yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. But very, very important. And into your muscles too.
Yes.
So that glucose will go straight into your muscles. And if you don't have enough glucose, like you're sleeping and you still need to run your brain to run all your dreams, you need to have that glucose in there to run your dreams. And if you don't have sugar because you're not eating while you're sleeping, your liver's going to make some. It's going to do gluconeogenesis. We're going to create some new glucose. And we can create new glucose from a few different tissues in the body. We can take fat stores and we can turn that into glucose. And if we don't have enough fat stores, which I have enough fat stores, but if you did it, it could take it from muscle.
Yes.
And it could break down amino acids from your muscles.
Yes.
And it could turn also that into sugar. So glucose is very, very, very important. Now, in our diet, and Gates and I have a show, and it's all about the oses because, there's fructose is a fruit sugar, and lactose is a mammalian gland. That's your baby formula sugar, right? Lactose, this comes from the mammary gland. Lactose, glucose, what are the other oses? Sucrose, I think that's a fake one.
Allulose.
Yeah, chains of
many
sugars
oses.
together. There's lots of oses. So anyways, we digress. Okay, so the liver, the liver's making that. What else is the liver?
So producing bile, right?
Yes.
What's bile? Well, bile, everybody thinks about bile as a gallbladder thing, but the gallbladder is simply a storage sac for bile. Bile is made in the liver. Bile is critically important. Why? It emulsifies fat. So when we eat any fat, it needs to be emulsified. Emulsification is what happens when you put dish soap in your dirty dishes and it breaks the oil up into all those little droplets.
Yes, because a soap particle is, this end of my molecule loves water and this end of my molecule loves fat.
We got chemistry going on.
And so then we got emulsifier, right? So this is great. Mustard is that. That's why we put mustard in our salad dressing. Look at our episode with Gates and I. We made a salad dressing. We put mustard in it because it's an emulsifier. So it allows the little fat globules to be small and to be suspended nicely in the water section.
Yes.
Anyway, so a bile acid is the
chemistry.
same thing.
A bile acid is
It's breaking down those fats
Yes.
into digestible pieces so it can go into your body in the places that it needs to
And
be.
this is what happens commonly. For example, if somebody has had to have their gallbladder removed, they're not so great at emulsification anymore, and they frequently end up with dumping syndrome, loose stool, reflux, and so on, because that bile storage is not there anymore.
Not there.
And sometimes, well, the liver can keep up if there's not an excessive demand, but if there's an excessive demand, that little storage sac that contracts in the presence of fat in the small intestine isn't available anymore. So we end up with not so nice symptoms.
There was a weight loss drug. Do you remember the weight loss drug? That was
I do.
I can't remember.
Starts
now.
with an O.
I forget. But it worked precisely in that, was it Orlistat? No, I can't remember. Jeez, that's very bad for pharmacists. They pulled it off the market because it was terrible.
Gone. You don't have to.
So I don't have to remember anymore. It came and went. But that's how it worked. It just made you not absorb fat, and then you would have like tracks in your underwear.
Oh yes.
And so people didn't like that.
No.
So that drug.
Tracks are not fun.
That didn't last. Anyways, we digress. Okay, back to the liver. Okay, so the liver.
Back to the liver.
Back to the liver. Okay. What else is the liver job?
Produces blood proteins, right?
Yes.
Albumin, very important proteins that perform transporting roles in our body.
Yeah.
So we've got bioproduction, globulin, albumin, the blood proteins. We've got the neutralization of toxins. Okay, I'm missing something.
She had a great list before.
I did.
So we're going to use our technology to help us.
Oh yes,
because we need our technology.
Recycling plant.
Oh yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Plant.
So recycling red blood cells, so it plays a role in cell production, synthesis, breakdown as well. Which is again all of these roles that the liver plays that really is not on most of our radar because we think of it as performing that singular function. And one of the most amazing things about the liver, it regenerates itself
very quickly. Yes, you can.
It's remarkable. It actually regrows. It's one of the I think the only organs in the body that regrows its cells. So you can really beat up your liver and it'll come back. I mean, when you think about it, and this is a really tragic illness, but people who do abuse alcohol, and for years and years and years, literally bathe their liver in poison and survive for decades
Yeah.
with that level of assault on an organ.
And
It's
if they
really,
stopped drinking, it could heal.
it could. It
Yeah,
really
it
could.
could heal.
Yeah. hmm And there are herbs available as well that facilitate that repair process. Milk thistle, dandelion, things that grow right in your backyard that you could, turn into a tincture.
Well, it's interesting. I want to talk a little bit about that because as a pharmacist, and until I'm just a weirdo pharmacist because I like herbs and I like preventive medicine and all that kind of
An
stuff.
advanced
But
pharmacist.
and yeah, whatever. But really, until like I was, because I'm interested in those things, I know a lot more things about the liver. But other than that, like this was the disease, when you're failing, when your organs are failing, like this is when you start hearing about, oh, your organs are failing. Now, how do we have to adjust your drug dosages? Like this is how I learned about the liver in Western medicine is like, if you have liver failure, well, these kind of drugs you probably shouldn't take. They're kind of toxic to the liver. They get broken down by the liver. So if we dose you normally with these kinds of medications and you have liver failure, you're going to overdose on this drug because it's necessary to be broken down by the liver. So, but that's one of those things, like we never really, in my training, talked about how do you protect your liver or why would you want to? Like your liver's just an organ. It does its thing until it fails. And then we have to make adjustments because the thing is broken. And never did in my training formally talk about, well, how would you support a liver? Like why would you want to? But then when you look at other styles of medicine, naturopathy would be one of them, but like Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, they just go like your organs of detoxification are so important.
Absolutely.
We need to take care of these. We need to learn about how to manage them. So I've learned a lot of things like yoga and yoga postures to put pressure points on different sets of your organs so that, there's not only a drug approach to supporting an organ, there's movement, right? There's rest and relaxation because your body's only healing if you can tap into that parasympathetic, which is like none of this fight or flight. This is like rest, relax, your body's healing while you're sleeping. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the herbs that you can use to support your liver and some of the foods that you can eat to support your liver. So let's go through some of those
Well,
things.
I think the big ones, like I mentioned, everybody thinks of milk thistle and dandelion, but there's schizandra is another herb, chelidonium. There's a whole array. I don't have them right here.
I like the local ones because I have
Yes,
Seasons Pharmacy and
speak to
Culinaria.
Seasons Pharmacy.
And because if something is growing close to you, it has the best life force too. And
yes,
herbal
perfect.
plants that you're using for medicinal purposes are also, plus if it comes through some factory in China, I'm always nervous about what
100%.
is that,
Yes.
Yeah,
But
quality at least I know that it's burdock. There's only
Burdock,
one
of
kind of burdock.
course.
But in Japan, I just came back from Japan and they're eating at the restaurant in my plate several times was burdock root. They slice it in like little matchsticks and it tastes delicious. And I've eaten burdock before because it grows wild on my farm. And it's food. It's sweet. It's like a sweet tuber. Now the leaves are quite bitter. And actually anything that's bitter, it actually stimulates a little bit of like peristalsis in here. It gets those bile salts moving. It gets the liver kind of fired up. And it's interesting, when you're a kid, you cannot tolerate bitter things. It's terrible. You're going to spit that out. But as you get older, somehow those taste buds die off.
They do change.
And that's because as we get older, or maybe our liver's tired. I don't know if we can get tired. But as we get older, we can tolerate those. So what are those things? Chicory, right? If you're going to eat endives, chicory, these things are bitter. Dandelion greens. My pharmacy's in Gaccio, lots of Italians there. The first thing that happens in the spring, everyone's running out to clean yards where the dogs aren't peeing everywhere and picking those first dandelion leaves that come out are quite delicious. Once the flowers come up, I'll usually eat the flowers because the leaves are very bitter. But listen, you could put a little bit of chopped up dandelions all summer long. If you're older than 50, go out to your garden where the dog hasn't been and just add a few of these little bitter things. So that's really good for you. It's a really supportive.
Bitters are fabulous for digestion.
Yeah, bitter. So we have here yellow dock, burdock, dandelion. Dandelion's a fantastic plant. It's not actually native to North America, but the Europeans brought it over with them, and now it's growing everywhere. But it's really good for the urinary system, and it's also really good for the liver system. And so these are things that grow near you that you could just put in your diet.
Absolutely.
You could just eat them a little bit.
And if you can't eat them, there's
you can encapsulate them. You could put them in tincture.
I prefer tinctures, actually. Why?
Explain a tincture.
Well, a tincture is a liquid suspension of I don't know if suspension is
It's
the
not a
right
special,
word.
it's a solution
A solution.
in alcohol. Very
Yeah,
important.
yes.
Tinctures and an
I was
alcohol.
getting to the
Yeah,
alcohol
okay.
part.
You just said solution, and I'm like, oh, it could be anything. No, it has to be alcohol.
Yes, I was getting the alcohol part.
Or
So
could be vinegar. Vinegar, I think, also gives you
the
a
tinctures
tincture.
that I've used have been alcohol based traditionally. And so the tinctures I have combined various herbs that match a certain clinical picture.
Yeah.
So I have burdock. I have a burdock tincture I use for skin conditions, right? Because of the role of the liver and the lymphatics in skin, and burdock's great for liver and lymph. I have a dandelion milk thistle tincture more for repair and supporting detoxification and so on. So I like tinctures. Tinctures for me go to a deeper energetic level than capsules do, for whatever reason.
Well, part of it is you put that
it's
tincture and it's in your mouth. You
it's the
talked about,
actual-
okay,
it's
what's
processing
first
in your mouth
pass
first.
metabolism. If I eat something, I swallow it. It goes into my digestive system, which is highly, it's got a good good nerves going in there too, which is that's why it's our second brain sometimes, but there's really good circulation in there. So we have miles and miles and miles of intestine, and things will go straight from that circulation, through that circulatory system, and go straight to the liver first, and it goes through this first pass metabolism. So a lot of things get knocked out. But if you put it through your oral mucosa, your moist membrane in your mouth, it just goes boom, straight into your...
Straight in.
So a tincture is very concentrated. It's alcohol. So it just goes straight through here before we can even swallow it. A lot of it gets picked up right here, which I think is one of the reasons why it's more potent than an encapsulated. I know we're going to talk about alcohol and how bad it is for the liver, and it is. However, alcohol is a tremendous preservative. So if we're talking about that life force going into the plant, the life force, it's a way for herbalists or medicine men or women to capture that vital essence while the plant is really fresh. It preserves it, allows us to put it in smaller containers. It allows us to carry it with us and make it available to other people. So tinctures are great. I think tinctures are great. And knowing where you live, and in Northern Ontario in particular, all of those plants are very easy to find. Yeah,
and I mean, it's not difficult to make your own tincture.
No, you just buy a bottle of vodka.
That's it.
Buy a bottle of vodka. Okay, so a couple of things. If you're going to try to make your own tincture, just a little bit. If you use a green plant and you put that into alcohol, it might go moldy on you. So the idea is dry it quickly, then put it in alcohol. You might be okay if you do green, not dried, but especially things like if you want to use dandelion root and burdock root, you got to chop those up. There's a lot of water in those roots. It doesn't look like there is, but you can bite into it. But if you dehydrate it, not a chance. You got to chop it into small pieces first. Even on a cookie sheet, you don't have to apply heat,
Just let it dry.
Just let it dry. And then once it's dry, you put that in a jar, mason jar, whatever, and you top it up with vodka and you just shake it, shaky once in a while. It'll turn really dark. And then you know it's ready.
Yes.
There you go. Bingo.
Yeah,
It's simple.
The
Then
darker, the better.
you spray that off. You pour that off through a filter, and then you give that back to the earth as a thank you. Don't put that in the garbage can. That would be like a sacrilege for herbalists. Put that under a tree outside. Say thank you. And you have that beautiful tincture. All right. So we have 23 minutes. Okay. That was... before we leave the subject of the liver,
yes,
because we've been talking about how it's a functioning organ in our body, but I want to talk about eating liver as a food source, and in particular for women, especially young girls going into adolescence and women who are in their menstruating years. I think that anemia is a real thing. We don't eat liver in our diet anymore. We don't really talk about it much as an important nutrient, but I do want to talk about the liver as an important nutrient. What have you to say about the liver as an important nutrient?
Well, because of all the things that are in the liver and the nutrients, iron in particular, and B vitamins that eating the liver, my one concern about eating liver is the source.
Yeah.
Right? If we're getting a liver from a cow that's been industrially processed and eating processed food and being injected with antibiotics, growth hormone, all of that, we're eating all of that because all of that goes
Concentrated.
It's concentrated in the liver. Likewise for dairy products. Grass-fed is the only way to go, in my opinion. And ideally a happy cow, a cow that's living in a pasture, that's living its best life, because we also eat the emotions of the animal. That's a whole other conversation.
That is a whole other conversation. And it's one that we're missing because we think about, we have this mental health, crisis, and there's lots of reasons. It's like, this is like the straw that broke the camel's back. But we never talk about the quality of life and the life force vitality of what's the happiness of that
Of our
chicken
food
living in a
supply.
cage, right? I live on a farm. This is one of the reasons why, because I believe in that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I will eat chicken at a restaurant, but very rarely, like I'm going to try to opt for the things that maybe didn't have to live in such a bad condition, because I don't know,
Exactly.
where's the karmic energy of that?
Well,
I don't know.
I
I
would
believe
prefer
in
not to support that.
right.
And whatever, I mean, realistically, we're talking about, let's go back to photons, right?
Yeah.
Photons, energy, emotional trauma is all stored in every cell of our body. We know this. This is not speculation. And so if an animal is treated in a horrific environment, has emotional duress, and we eat parts of that animal, consume all parts of that animal, its products, then that's transmitted. It's energetically transmitted. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So we think about what's the long-term, lifelong impact of that, of eating a trauma,
Yeah.
eating the trauma from another living being. I mean, it's a very real
One
phenomenon.
of my favorite farmer guys, his name is Joel Salatin. He talks about, flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone. What I'm going to eat is going to become flesh of my
Yes.
flesh and bone of my
Yes.
bone. And it's true that you are what you eat, and you are what you eat eats. And, even from this idea of sunlight is hitting my skin, the skin of a chicken, the skin of a pork, the skin of a cow, outside in the sunlight.
Yes.
But we've all decided that, environmental conditions are too harsh.
Yep, they
There's
need
too
to
many
be
wolves
inside.
out there. Let's put them all
Mhm.
inside under fluorescent lighting.
And crowded conditions.
And crowded, but
living
they're
in their
not
own
even
fecal
getting
matter,
vitamin D.
eating processed corn and whatever else they're
Yeah.
being fed.
But that vitamin D that would be
That
stored in
vitamin D,
their fight,
absolutely,
when we
that's
eat their
all of
fat,
that.
we would have that vitamin
It's all
D.
missing.
But now I sell a lot of vitamin D
Of
supplements.
course.
Because we're not outside.
Yes.
And the animals that we eat are no longer outside.
Right. And everybody's
So the
putting
flesh of
sunscreen.
my flesh and sunscreen, flesh of my flesh. It's like, we're missing vitamin D. Now we have to consume it. So praise the pharmaceutical industry for making some vitamin D.
Yes.
But you could go make your own. You could
Yes,
make your own.
yes, you could.
Even in the winter time in Northern Ontario, you got to bundle up everything else, but your face can be exposed to the sun. You could go skiing or take a walk. Okay, the liver. So the liver, from the perspective of, let's just talk about anemia for a few minutes, because we have 3 minutes left.
3 minutes.
And let's just talk about anemia for women and menstruation and all of those wonderful things that cause us to bleed. So we need to replenish the building blocks of more blood. Why? Because we need to transport oxygen, and we got to transport oxygen with hemoglobin. Heme is iron, and we need that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, this is particularly important, right, for women who lose blood every month.
Yeah.
And if you don't replenish that, primarily through our food, what we eat, right? If we don't replenish the iron and the B vitamins and so on, then we develop anemia, and I see it frequently. Yeah. I also see anemia in people with malabsorption, right? Because they're not able to absorb the nutrients even if they did eat them. So that's a very, very common thing.
And how do you help somebody absorb better?
Well, heal the gut, right? It's all about the gut microbiome, the gut lining, and what the gut requires to break down the food. So in a very, very short blurb about the gut and healing the gut, 4 R's: remove, replace, reinoculate, repair. Yeah. Remove the things that are creating inflammation, food and organisms that shouldn't be there. SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, SIFO, small intestine fungal overload, and so on.
Get rid of sugar. That'll help solve a lot of that.
That will solve a lot of
sugar
that.
And processed food.
Absolutely.
Oof.
Food, reactive foods that are creating inflammatory response. And then replace with enzymes, bile, whatever's missing to complete the combustion of the food. Yeah. Reinoculate is simply identifying what's missing in the gut microbiome, and that's a very individualized thing. We have to assess.
Can you send samples to get that assessed? Is that a thing?
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Okay.
But, we are in functional medicine, but not in conventional medicine.
Right.
You can absolutely get a comprehensive digestive stool and parasitology.
And you have to do that in the States. I don't think it's available in Canada.
There are some labs in Canada that do functional gut testing.
That would be
GI
interesting.
map or CDSAP. There's a few labs that do that.
Okay, interesting.
So, and then the final R, of course, is repair, because once you get all the factors in place for the gut to function properly and give it all the resources that it needs, then you need to heal that lining that's been inflamed and assaulted by all the other factors. So,
and then you can absorb things properly.
And then you can absorb things.
So then we can get it from red meats for sure, red meats and liver. What are our vegetable sources of iron? Are there any?
There are most of the green products are very poorly absorbed though. So this is the tricky part about
Yeah.
getting iron from a plant source
Yeah.
is that there's oxalates in iron-rich foods that
Yes, that's
block
true.
the absorption.
Right.
So that's tricky.
And vitamin C helps absorb.
Absolutely.
Right?
Vitamin C co-facilitates
My
absorption.
favorite, there's two products I want to talk about. One is called Blood Builder, and another one is called Floradix or Floravit.
The
And I
liquid.
really like these. Salus is a German company. They're
Mhm.
biodynamic. They actually had a friend of mine visited their plant, and they take whole plants and they squish them in this big machine, and
It's
then they have like
it's
pure plant extract. So
yeah.
it's like
The Germans are ahead of us in that.
they're way ahead of us, and that is a tremendous product.
Mhm.
I love the taste of it. It is in a liquid base. You have to put it in the fridge. I think it tastes delicious, but there's stinging nettles in there and vitamin C and rose hips and all these really delicious things
Cofactors
that
for absorbing the iron.
the cofactors for absorbing the
Very,
iron.
very few people get constipated when they use that liquid iron
Yeah.
product.
And because iron can be constipating, it
Mhm.
causes your stools to be black, and you
If
think
it's
you're
not
dying.
absorbed, right?
Does not absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sits in the stool if it's not absorbed, and that's where the constipation comes.
Now, all of you who live in Northern Ontario, there's an abattoir or several in the vicinity of where you live. You will find that the abattoirs will be able to get you liver sourced from a farmed animal that was
Mhm.
loved by a farmer.
Mhm.
You can get all the organ meats from them, and they're not expensive. So this doesn't have to be a shishi movement for the bougie. No, this is like you can go to the abattoir. There is one near you, no matter where you are in Northern Ontario. Ask for things like heart. Ask for things like liver.
All the organs.
You can make liver
Mhm.
pate, and if you don't like slicing liver and having liver and onions like your grandmother used to make you eat, you can make liver pate. I have some beautiful recipes on my YouTube channel about making liver pate with a real chef with cognac and shallots. It's fabulous.
Delicious.
I converted a vegan who's
Oh.
going to be my daughter-in-law. That was her. She broke her fast on this liver pate we
Oh.
were making in the pharmacy that day because it smelled amazing, and your body knows what it needs.
Mhm.
And I had Michaela eating that liver pate, and Maple, who was this little 3-year-old kid, and she was just licking it off the crackers. Like she didn't even eat the crackers. She just ate the liver pate. Anyways, 5 gold stars to Craig Young, who made that day. It was delicious. But there are ways to make the stuff that you think, ooh, ick factor is very high. There are ways to make the stuff super
Palatable.
delicious.
Yeah.
And it's very important. I just want to encourage people to, this is our show about the liver. You can
Yeah.
eat it, and you can take care of your liver. It's right here.
Yes.
Love
Love
me
your
this rib
love your
cage.
liver.
Love your liver.
Love your liver.
Love your liver.
And
Thank you
manage your
so much.
anger because
Oh,
anger
yes.
anger hits the liver too.
This is
And
the
Asian
other,
medicine.
yes, the
Yes.
other, what do we call that? The energy medicine section of your liver is, yeah, apparently our anger and our
Anger.
passion is stored.
Yes.
And so,
So
yeah. So let's
Oh.
try to be
loving.
loving.
Love your liver.
And you could just rub it and say, I love you, liver. Thanks
Yes.
for keeping me safe
Yes,
all this far, and
exactly.
learn to love your bitter things if you're older. If you're a kid, you know, got a few good years left of your liver. If dandelion root or if dandelion leaf tastes delicious to you, you need it.
You need it.
You need it. Go ahead and eat it.
That's right.
Thanks very much for
It's been
joining us
great.
today,
Again,
Kate. Yeah, I love
It's
this.
been awesome, Rochelle.
All right.
Yeah.
Love the North podcast.
Yes.
Tune in, like and subscribe. Ding, ding, ding. And yeah, we love the North. So there you go.